So it looks like Imgur just... All I did was update the new map. I didn't tell Tabletop to point to a new URL or anything, but everybody should be seeing the correct updated map now.
Huh? What?
Yeah,
Oh,
that's got the
I
stuff
see
I remember
words.
being added.
Yeah.
I remember words.
That words happened.
Oh, it's Black Owl Squadron.
But yeah, we have now labeled the Titan's spine here. So there is one
One.
that you know of. Kind of important plot thread from the Feywild that we did not resolve. And you know, typically, you know how I am. If there's a plot thread that doesn't get resolved, but we're not interested in it, I just let it dangle and fade away, and we just stop talking about it. But I distinctly remember describing this incredibly long contract rolling out onto the ground. And then I distinctly remember Birdie building traps in that person's house when he left. So, might not be able to let this one go.
If you're gonna tell me that that was in the contract, I'm gonna call you a liar.
Probably was not in the contract. Adrex didn't read the contract very closely, weirdly enough. He just let it go.
It was in a language he couldn't read, so
And
get off his back.
to be fair, I asked and got laughed at, and that's why I left a trap.
Is that just the proper response to getting laughed at?
I mean, you can laugh at me once, fine, whatever. I am kind of silly looking. I do have a silly looking hat. But after the fourth or fifth time, I mean... I'm also never going to take that hat off. It's just part of...
It's a quality hat.
We need a word in the English language to describe this state that I'm sure all of you will immediately be able to sympathize with. It's when you go to open up one of your tabs in your little system tray or whatever, but like your hand slips and you click the wrong thing, and there's like a few seconds when some software is opening up but you don't know what it is because you don't know what it is you accidentally clicked on.
It's porn.
Probably not in my system tray, but...
Nope, yeah, I'm pretty sure. Quick select, system tray, favorites, and then Windows Explorer.
It turned out to be tiled. Tiled is what got accidentally open. Let me close that.
I don't know what that is.
It's a little software that like game designers use to make tiled graphics. So, like, the
That
guy
makes
who
sense.
made the maps in Axiom Verge used tiled to draw his little maps. So you guys all went to the Feywild and
That's
had a
true.
nice vacation.
Mhm.
And last week I told you that nobody comes back from the Feywild unscathed. Technically, in the last campaign, you guys went to the Feywild for a little while and came back unscathed, but those were like hardened plane hopping veterans. Like that for them, it was just Tuesday. For you normies, I want to
We have
know
to pick up a template.
how the Feywild changed you. What mark are you going to carry for the rest of your mortal life that notates your time spent in the fairy realm? Who wants to tackle this question first?
Adrex. Alright, well, I'll go then.
Okay.
Because I, last week, came up with a suggestion, and I was told that that would just be basically Mahogany 3. And so I'm not willing to let that stand, and I decided, well, fine, you don't want more Mahogany. Instead, you're getting more Ferocity.
Okay.
And so Wendy went to the Feywild and stole fire from the Snow Queen and got away with it. So I think Wendy's eyes now are just pits of flame that glow, especially in the darkness. Because these were flames that were stolen in the middle of an ice realm in which fire was impossible to exist.
See, to me,
And I
interesting-
gave it to, and I stole fire and gave it to the little people.
Yeah, see, that to me, that's the interesting part of that story. Is not that you stole the fire, but that you gave it to the mouse folk who were hungry for fire.
And since there's no eagles around, I am the eagle. I figured this shouldn't have any bad consequences.
All right, who else has an answer for me? I heard Adrex's name.
If I'm really quiet, everyone will go away.
The sound of a
best
door
part
slamming
is-
and
The
footsteps
best
going down
part,
the
I have to
stairs.
tell everyone, I normally don't like to out things that people say when we're not on stream. But he starts this off by going, "Hey Brick, what way do you want us to tell you this info?" Implying that he has this info somewhere.
I didn't realize it was had to be a physical manifestation.
It doesn't. Doesn't have to be anything in particular.
Right.
That's just how
Because
Nodal
Adrex's
chose to
thing
interpret
is-
the question.
Because Adrex's thing is he learned a very difficult lesson in that, yes, everything in the Feywild is magical and manipulative, and there's a whole layer of magical false pretense and illusion, but that also applies to love. That hurts Adrex a lot.
I was not expecting it to go that direction.
I was 100% expecting it to go in that direction.
I don't know what I was expecting.
So how is that changed Adrex? Like, how is he going to behave or be different now?
He's now a
Adrex.
little more skeptical towards women than he used to be.
Specifically elves?
Elves and women, and possibly both. I could make a joke here, but I won't.
All right, so I have an
Birdie.
idea.
Okay, go.
Alright.
So the time spent in the Feywild, to some degree, pushed part of Red's nature is, snakiness to the forefront. So I'm thinking I'm not going to keep the brain leaking,
Okay.
but instead, he now has a, a real taste for live food swallowed whole. Especially if we can get a good mouse or something.
No,
And
you can't do that on the internet.
And B, Red can now be affected by spells that would affect a snake, even if it has limitations like beast-like intelligence or something. So, like, Charm Beast or anything like that will work on him.
Okay. Now here's why I don't like that idea.
Okay.
Knowing Destil's pedigree, playing the older versions of D&D, and being something of a min-maxer from time to time, a benevolent one, I grant you, but you may have heard of an old 3.5 thought experiment, we'll call it, called Pun Pun. It's the idea of creating his Kobold character, then making him like a godlike character with like 5 experience levels that can't be killed by anything, has infinity in all stats. And the key to that is a very specific like class feature that only affects snakes. So I'm very wary of what Destil's trying to set me up for here.
I mean, I wasn't even thinking about the beneficial effects, which is basically just, I guess if we ever meet a druid, I can use Magic Fang.
I was literally gonna say, Destil just wants to be able to cast Magic Fang.
No, that sounds,
I mean, it's
that sounds
honestly-
that sounds great to me.
It's honestly not even as good as, like, Magic Weapon for a character like me, because I don't think I can sneak attack with my natural weapons, so... Which I don't
Wait, what?
have.
Why?
Because it's not a light or... Is unarmed strike a finesse weapon?
Yeah.
Oh, I guess I could then. I could do 1 damage plus sneak attack, but
Not that I'm.
I was mostly thinking like various charms or wards or whatever. The fun part would be like walking into an area that's warded against snakes. Like
Right.
anyway.
Yeah, I'll have to do some research into that to see how I can turn this against you. Because that sounds like a lot of fun. What about Birdie?
I thought about a couple of things, but the one I think I settled on was just, I guess, that being in the Feywilds brought out like the draconic recessive genes in Kobold, so Birdie's coloration changed from like right now he's kind of like a dull orange with brown splotches, but like now I guess make him like uniformly dark gray or something, and give him a couple of extra horns.
So he looks more like a dragon then?
Yeah, but he's still 2 feet tall, so.
See, that's what the thing I thought you were gonna go for. I was gonna say like, oh yeah, Birdie's like now 5 feet tall. Just this big kobold boy.
There was one. I tried to balance when I was doing the Feywild adventure, but I tried to balance because half of the Feywild has to screw with the players. Like it just has to be just mean and arbitrary, but the other half has to be like wondrous and weird. And I tried to balance the two. So I like, yeah, we're gonna have the weird snake guy who attacks you for no reason, but we're also gonna have like the fun little dancing mice people. One of the gotchas that I didn't end up springing on you guys, just because the session didn't go that direction, was if you had gone down in the cellar to fight the dragon, it wasn't actually a dragon. It was just like an ice sculpture that she brought to life. That
would have been extremely rude.
I literally only put there so you could stab it with a dagger that hurts dragons and it doesn't friggin' do anything. But you ended up not fighting that monster, so it all worked out in the end.
I gotta say, Wendy faced 0 consequences for any of her actions during the Feywild adventure.
I don't think Birdie did either.
I mean, yeah.
Other people faced Birdie's consequences for him.
A little bit, yeah. Adrex remains to be seen because he's got that contract. So,
well, no. To be fair, like they did throw a stone golem at us. That was sort of my fault. I didn't face the consequences of my actions alone.
Yeah, I still think that counts as other people facing your consequences for you.
long story short, Princess Dandelion makes good on her promise and sends you guys back to the world you know. And you arrive back on the hill that you originally left from, with all your body parts intact, with these various changes to your person also intact. It's very clear that your time in the Feywild has changed you. The world you come back to is much colder than the one you left. You see very... in fact, it's currently snowing. There's a thin blanket of powder on the ground. Just kind of surveying the area, you can see that the trees nearby have given up most of their leaves. And other than that, it's a very peaceful night. What's unnerving about it is, I don't think we ever actually established what time of year it was when you left, but it's definitely winter now. And you're pretty sure you haven't been in the Feywild for that long. Didn't feel like it anyway. It felt like maybe a matter of weeks, if that. Certainly not months. Not long enough for the seasons to turn.
It's been 100 years.
Birdie turns to that guy. What is his name? The male Moncton older gentleman that we met.
So yeah, Josiah is with you?
Yeah, Birdie turns to Josiah and gives him the stink eye and says, "How long did it take us to get how long were we doing that?"
And he tells you that it's difficult to say.
Should we bring the Moncton back to a Sarafall?
So just to
Before we
clarify,
continue into the Underdark?
right now you have Josiah and Ubrid with you, along with 16 of the Moncton soldiers that came along. So 18 of the Moncton in all. And you guys were several days away from a Sarafall when you ran into the White Mother. Because you had left Shallow Scale Lake and you were on your way somewhere else. But it shouldn't be difficult to pick up that trail and head that direction if that's where you want to go.
I mean, I don't think we need to bring a Moakton army into the Underdark.
I mean,
Well, we have this Moakton army.
Do they have dark vision?
No, they do not.
Yeah, no, I don't think. I don't see that as a advantage.
let's just take them back to Asera Fall. Maybe we can figure out how long we were gone. I hope it's not 100 years.
How long do
least.
kobolds live?
100 years.
140 years.
Oh. You'll still
Although
have some friends then.
I think, well, everybody Birdie knows is already dead, so he doesn't care.
Birdie, make me a wisdom check as you're mulling this over.
I think if I was on a pilgrimage for 100 years, that would make me the longest.
13.
You've learned that the Moakton sold a child to the White Mother every winter for about a century or so, and there were about 100 Moakton at the at her palace during your time there. If you'd been gone for 100 years, that population would have been much, much larger, and there would have been many, many more children.
Okay.
Just kind of doing that mental math, like there weren't new Moakton babies showing up every few days while you were there.
Well, my vote is we go back to the village.
No, I agree with that.
Also, take a look at my cool new scales. Yeah.
So right now it is the dead of night. It looks to be the same time of night that you left. Just a very different time of year.
Well,
Is it? Is it just a different time of year because of the weather, or have the stars changed at all?
What kind of proficiencies do you have that let you read the stars?
That's what I'm looking at. Give me 1 second here.
I'm interested to see, because I wouldn't even know what that would be under.
Just a
Survival?
survival. I mean, I don't have survival proficiency, but I do have a +4.
I'll make a survival check to see.
$24.
Yeah, and you're very easily able to identify the winter sky that you've seen every night of your life from the peaks high up in the mountains where your monastery is.
So at least we haven't screwed up the weather any with our elemental antics. So that's a plus.
So the question is, are you guys going to make camp until morning, or are you going to set out overland in the middle of the night? Keeping in mind that I guess it's been a little while since your daring escape. Because you had time to get back to Princess's court.
Maybe we set up camp like a mile from here, just because the last time we rested in this campsite, it turned out to be pretty bogus.
I seem to recall somebody just walking up and grabbing the bogus thing.
It worked out pretty well for you, Mr. Dragon Scales.
Hmm.
And we got all these Moakton, who I'm sure are very grateful.
I rather it would be in the Underdark. I say that, and then we're going to get to the Underdark, and it's going to be just as terrible, if not more so.
Oh, it's definitely going to be more so.
So, I have no
Make
preference.
me a perception check. I'll make this
Okay.
at disadvantage because it's nighttime.
Okay. That is a 12.
Okay, and you're able to scout out a decent spot about an hour's march away, near to a clean source of water where you can build a fire and camp out for the night until morning safely.
Nice.
And the next morning, we're marching out to Serafall.
Yeah.
Sounds like a plan.
Standard marching procedure. We're going to have Wendy.
Oh, it's so
Scouting
nice
ahead.
to be able to fly again.
When do you just want to, take half an hour and reaccustomize yourself to the sky?
The last time I had to recustomize myself to the sky was when I got tossed out of the nest.
So many Aarakocra children die that way.
Listen, we don't have that many years to us, so we're a very quick learning people.
Those of you on the ground. Do any of you have better than 15 passive perception?
Red does. Nope.
Birdie has a 19.
Red is a 16.
You guys are marching along the ground with your moated companions. Noting the passage of time as Wendy circles back every so often. Red, you find places in the earth and in the grass, places where the snow hasn't had a chance to stick and start to pile up yet. Very badly trodden places. You're pretty sure that you're crisscrossing over tracks of a very large group. Not only do you see like marching tracks, but you're also pretty sure you see gouges in the earth where wheels have rolled. And very recently. They would have had to have been very recently.
Is there snow on the ground?
A little bit here and there. It's not quite cold enough for it to start sticking everywhere yet, though.
Okay.
You got a little bit of powder last night, but now that the sun is up in the morning, it's a little bit too warm.
Are we going across, does it look like there's one place that we just crossed where another group went across, or is it just all over the place?
You just started to notice it, so you're not sure yet.
Okay. I think Birdie is usually our tracker.
Well, remember, daylight, sunlight
Oh, yeah.
sensitivity. So,
The question you're going to have to ask yourself is, if you didn't take your dark vision back from Princess Dandelion, would you also not have to worry about sunset sensitivity? It's going to keep you up nights.
I'll be fine, thank you. We end up in too many dark places not to have night vision.
But he wants to be kept up nights because, obviously.
Yeah, if you were to stop here and investigate, you might be able to pick up the direction, the duration, how much time has passed. But I mean, your first inclination is that there have been orc patrols, or were when you left, all over these areas.
So that would be a nature or survival check.
We would call it survival, because this is specifically attempting to track something. But first, I'd need a successful investigation check.
Can I do the investigate?
Sure.
And then he does the survival? Because I'm not any good at survival, but I'm good at investigation.
Yeah, because even at disadvantage, I'd probably do better than he would.
My investigation would be a 16.
Okay, and you bring the group to a stop for a moment, and investigate the area, pick up the tracks, and you almost immediately start picking up the very telltale signs of earth that's been turned by heavy claws. And you immediately think of the wargs that these orc chieftains were riding around. It looks like the area is being very heavily patrolled by them. And it looks like their numbers have redoubled since last time you were here. The wheels indicate that they're now drawing large supplies or siege weapons or something.
Did we get a long rest overnight?
Yeah, you can take the benefits of the long rest.
Alright, get some hit dice back.
Well, everybody should be filled up on hit dice because you guys spent, I think we spent a week in the princess.
Oh, that's true. Yeah, I didn't even think about that.
Yeah, everybody should be topped off on all their goodies and whatnots and hey-hays.
Hey.
Don't touch my hey.
Sorry.
Okay, so do the survival check for. Are we going to? What do we want to know? We want to know. I can tell what direction they're going, and can I verify who's left the tracks?
Well, that's what Red just did with investigation. The survival check
Okay.
would be if you want to follow these tracks, either to where they're going or back to their origin point. If you want to use these tracks to navigate, that's what you use survival for.
Okay. Well, without rolling a survival, are they going the same direction we're going? Back to Asera Falls. Fall.
Looks like they're coming from that direction, actually. You guys right now are... You've marched south for almost a full day. You guys are about here-ish. So you're still about a full day away from Asera Fall. Yeah, it looks like these came from that direction.
Well, I mean, I don't see any reason to change what we're doing, though I might want to flag down Wendy and let her know to keep an eye out for orcs.
Alright. Generally, they're not hard to spot.
It shouldn't be. Looks like they're carrying siege engines or war vehicles or something. Maybe even just supplies.
Wendy, what's your passive perception?
My passive perception is 17.
17.
We're a very high perception party.
So when you scout out, how far away do you get from the group before you start circling back?
I think usually about a mile.
About a mile?
Yeah. Because a mile is essentially the distance which I feel like I can cover quickly.
After having this conversation with Red and Birdie about the tracks, and you're searching the ground for orc movements. You don't see any, by the way, just the standard countryside that you've been flying over for the past day or so. However, at that furthest point, just before you're about to start circling back, something catches your eye in front of you, and it looks like something ahead of you just kind of flew into the sun, and you lost sight of it.
Huh? Alright, I'll go investigate that. Did it look like something flying up into the sun, or like something shot something from the ground?
Impossible to say. Well, it wouldn't be impossible to say, because if something got shot from the ground, something would fall back down pretty quickly, and that doesn't happen within the first 30 seconds or so.
Alright, then yeah, I'm gonna go investigate that.
Fly in that direction?
Yeah.
Okay, roll initiative.
Nice.
All of us?
No, you guys are a mile away.
All right, good. Sorry. Not
Don't worry, dog, I'll be back.
Yeah. Words are eluding me right now.
$20?
Yep.
Alright, so what are you doing? You have the initiative.
Am I aware that anything has changed?
You are not.
Yeah, I'm still flying towards the thing, whatever it is. Whatever's going on here.
Are you taking an action, though? Like, are you going to use perception to try to find it, or just move your
Oh,
full
I mean,
speed back, or-
yeah. That makes sense. Is
Okay.
perception to try to find it.
Make this check at disadvantage, because whatever it was flew into the sun.
Yep. That's an 11.
An 11. I have a 13,
Whoa.
And I have a 21.
The 21 will hit.
Okay.
No, it's not an attack. It's just I have these numbers.
You just
They're
like
mine.
have them in a bucket that you keep under your bed.
Yeah.
You're not aware of anything as you're like scanning. It's really difficult because you don't want to look at the sun. That's a bad thing to do. But you
Right.
immediately become aware of arrows zipping out from the sun in your direction. The first
shit.
goes wide. The second connects for 7 points of piercing damage.
All right, and I catch it.
You catch it. You catch this arrow, and immediately, by holding it in your hand, you are aware that there's something bound around the arrow. You've got the wooden shaft of the arrow, but there's just a slip of twine or something twirled around it. And you are no closer to seeing what shot you than... Well, there's something clearly there, but... And you have the initiative now.
All right, I'm going to fly straight upwards,
Okay.
and I'm going to... So when you say something's wrapping around this thing, you mean like something's holding it shut, or there's just like...
I mean, you're going to need an action to figure it out.
That's going to be my action.
Okay. Examining this, it looks like there is a slip of paper wound around this arrow and then secured in place with twine.
All right, yeah, I'll take the paper off.
And
This
you-
seems like a friendly greeting. What's it got to say to me?
Sorry, that note text file is not open on my laptop.
That's all
So,
right.
Awkward silence is your greeting.
I open it up, and it just says, loading. Also, apparently when I leveled up, I got another monk movement point, because my flying speed is now absolutely preposterous.
You undo this twine as you're soaring through the air. And it looks like this slip of paper is directions. It looks like it's indicating a place in the countryside.
Alright, well, I'll wave up at the sun, and I'll fly back to go deliver the good news to my companions.
You guys, after another 20 or 30 minutes go by, Windy lands and says, hey, good news, somebody shot arrows at me.
They were really friendly about it, though. Look, here, I got a note.
Wait, so they shot a pointed arrow at you
Right.
with directions.
Well, they must have known I could catch it. Do you think I have a secret admirer? Did they send me this note?
I mean, at least it's in common, so I don't have to keep translating. That was getting old.
I'm sure we'll be fine.
Somebody's grouchy today.
Language is just a social construct.
Yeah, and we weren't part. Most of you weren't part of the society we were just in for how many months?
Details. I'm sure if I had been there long enough, I would have figured it out.
Do you really want to see what would happen to you if you spent long enough in the Feywild to learn Sylvan there?
I mean, I'd get prettier.
Fair enough, Wendy. Fair enough. Can't beat your logic.
Now that you're on the ground, getting a better look at this arrow, yeah, you've got proficiency with bows. Make me maybe just a straight wisdom check.
Alright. $16.
You immediately recognize the make of the arrow. The arrowhead is made out of a hollowed point bone.
Ooh, I know that one.
Do you?
Yep.
Whose arrow is it?
It's the lizard folk of, what's the name of that place?
Shallow scale.
Yep, Shallow Scale. We have a bunch of those, or we might have. I didn't keep track of which arrows we used in that to that granularity.
But yeah,
Alright,
that's
you just
exactly where you recognize the arrow from. That's excellent recall.
That's really good recall, yeah.
Good
But the
recall.
only reason he remembers it is because he got very concerned that I used them in an act of aggression.
Actually, I remembered it because they're particularly good at injecting poison.
Nice.
But looking at the notation on this little note, it's indicating a spot in the foothills very close to the village. Like with excellent eyesight, you might be able to stand in this spot and look down into the valley and see the river next to the village, if not the village itself. Does this change your trajectory any?
I was already planning to suggest that instead of approaching the village directly, we get a view of it beforehand. So it's just a question of do we want to follow
Wait,
this?
hold up. Which village is this location near?
A Seraphal.
Oh, okay. Then yeah. Let's stop there.
Wendy, are you still in the air? On the way
Yeah.
there? Okay.
Absolutely.
She's never gonna walk again because she couldn't fly for so long.
Even though I'm wearing these really nice shoes.
This time as you're scouting the direction that the note indicated, and you do see a small group of humanoids on the ground. You can't tell exactly who they are. You don't have the detail from the height that you fly at, but your immediate impression is these things look too small to be lizard men.
Huh. I'll fly down for a closer look then.
How close, and are you attempting to not be noticed?
I don't know. That flying from the direction of the sun idea was pretty killer. So maybe I'll give them a bit of that.
Give them a bit
Like
of that.
try to use the sun as something to hide against as a backdrop.
Okay. And as you position yourself there, make a stealth check.
All right. $14.
As you position yourself there, you hear a very shrill bird call in the direction you're flying. And as soon as that happens, you see movement in the pack of creatures on the ground.
Huh.
And you could become immediately aware that somebody was already hiding in the sun, saw you moving in that direction, and signaled the people on the ground.
All right. In that case, I think I'll fly back and get the others so that we can all meet as a group.
Okay. And nothing stops you from doing this. Probably another 10 or 15 minutes of marching, and whoever the group is will be on you.
Right. So yeah, I'll fly back and give them the news.
Who's taking point at this point? Hiding any kind of attempt at stealth is probably very, very impossible at the moment, considering you guys are 20 strong right now.
I'll take point. With Raazu in a pocket dimension, I'm the closest thing we have to a tank.
Like a literal pocket dimension. Like she's
I'm
completely.
gonna actually be at the very back of the entire group with this many people just to make sure no one jumps us from behind.
Okay.
I'm smack dab in the center for no good reason.
Are you being like super cautious about it? Like when people pass you, you just like no.
You count how many people are in front of you, behind you after someone passes you, and then maybe you're not, run ahead of them.
Like adjust yourself.
Yeah, that would be a thing that Adrex does.
Birdie's
Keep it even.
Birdie's behind Wendy.
I figured Birdie was still way back on the hill digging holes.
I
Oh, okay. Let me update my notes here.
mean, That sounds like a great idea, actually.
It's the reason why Birdie's name is so ironic, because there's nowhere to build holes in the sky.
You guys are just about entering part of the countryside where you're starting to get a little bit of elevation, heading up into the foothills, passing this way. There's still some heavily forested areas. Most of the trees and stuff are dead this time of year, but off to your right-hand side, down in the lowlands. And you see a group of small humanoids at the edge of perception that seem to have stopped for now. They have the high ground on you, but not in like an Anakin Skywalker kind of way. Just they happen to be situated a little bit higher in the foothills that you're entering.
I was gonna make that joke, and I'm upset you beat me to it.
Was
Joke!
yeah, that's what it was.
I mean,
Alright, we'll stop cyberbullying the Kobold.
Right. Does anybody hail them, or do you wait, or do you just approach?
I mean,
I'll raise out a head and give a call.
Okay.
you can do better than that. Come on.
It's really hard with this headset. It's because, like, I eventually came to the realization, it's like, wait a second. The reason why I'm so shit at this during D&D is because it's pressing down on my cheeks.
Okay.
You have a cheek-mounted headset?
I have really big cans on my headset.
He's like a squirrel. He like packs his headset into his cheeks. So Wendy goes forward, lets out a whistle. And a similar bird call comes back, the same one that you heard a few moments ago. And when that happens, you see two small figures circle out of the sky, land next to the other small figures on the ground.
Birds.
Birdie, yeah, you immediately, as you start to get closer, you recognize these small creatures as Urds, which means the rest of them must be kobolds.
I think Birdie said birds.
No, I said urds.
No, he said,
Oh.
He said curds. He's big into cheese curds right now.
Also, that just made me realize how bullshit it is that the best word for flying kobold that Kobold could come up with is birds without a B. Well, they're just birds. They don't have beaks, so the bee's not there.
what are they? We don't even know.
And as you get into shouting distance, one of them calls out a greeting in the kobold tongue, which I think only Birdie speaks actual kobold. Everybody else speaks probably just draconic.
Birdie waves back and says, "Yo, what you doing?"
You say it like that?
Yeah,
That's
Okay.
kobold.
it's kobold. Yeah,
That's what it sounds like.
it's a slang gutter language. Just waves.
I think we just
back.
ruined kobolds for Brick Road.
Yeah, I'm done with them now. You know what? I've been playing enough Suikoden, and they're dog people now. We're retconning it. One of them calls out a response. And he identifies you by name. Asks if it's Birdie that's approaching him.
Birdie stops. And I stop and say, "Yes. May I ask who you are?"
And he says, if you're really Birdie, then you may approach as friends.
Birdie turns and translates to the. How much? I have a question. Relevant. How much of this does Adrex, the people who know Draconic, know? Like.
I would let
know-
Adrex make an intelligence check to see how much of this he can pick up on.
So none of it, right? Okay, so
I know Draconic. Let me give it.
Oh, fluent in Draconic.
Sick burn.
it's not Draconic though.
Nope.
All right.
Nope, not Draconic.
It's like It's like when you hear a guy with a really heavy Cockney accent, you can identify it as English, but fucked if you know what he's saying.
I was thinking Mexican Spanish versus Spanish.
Thinking
That's
Piker
yeah,
English.
that's we're just speaking too fast for the draconic speakers.
But he said if it's really Birdie, then you may approach as friends.
I shrug and turn around and motion everybody to follow me after translating for the.
Birdie, I think it's really good that you've been making friends.
After a few more moments, you get close enough to see details on these kobolds, and the first thing you immediately recognize is the mottled brown-red coloration on them, because you've seen these kobolds before, or at least kobolds of this tribe, except the ones you saw were dead and hanging from a tree many months ago, far to the northwest. There are 6 of them. I'm sorry, 8 of them. 6 of them on the ground with spears and bows, and then the 2 Urds, which have great black wings folded up on their backs. None of them go for their weapons as you all enter range. You're well now within inside of the range of their bows if they wanted to be hostile. But when they see your numbers, you can tell that they are a little more reserved. The biggest of them, so still like, 3 foot nothing, steps forward and again calling out in Kobold to Birdie, "They're a hell of a lot more than you than we thought."
Well, you never know what we get up to when you leave us alone. These guys right here keep dragging me into all kinds of trouble.
He says they have orders from the master to escort you safely back to the camp.
What camp? Where?
He tells you that he
Are they
has...
still? Sorry, are they still speaking Kobold?
Yes. He tells you they're to escort you back to Hand-Toe's war camp.
I don't know a hand-toe. Hand-toe. I say hand-toe.
God damn it, now I gotta change this character's name, because I'll never be able to unhear that.
And he's a kobold, so I mean, that's not that far off.
Right. He calls out, "No, but we've heard you've crossed paths with his sister, Huyan."
Birdie turns to the group and says they want to take us to Huyan's brother's camp. You want us to? Do you think we should get a rain check?
I mean,
Do they mind if we drop our allies off first?
You said
I
we
don't
could
feel
possibly
super
see a Serafall from here?
You're not quite to the
Okay.
point on this, indicated on the slippy. You're headed in that direction. You'd have to go higher up into the foothills and look down into the river going through the lowlands. But yeah, it's very possible on a clear day when you get up there you'll be able to.
Birdie asks the kobolds. He says, "May I ask why you folks are out here, and how you knew we were coming?"
He says that a friend of yours has told the general a great deal about your adventures. So I think her name was Iriad? And they have a quick conversation between 2 kobolds about how to pronounce this particular name. They have difficulty speaking Moakton words.
Iriad. This is out of character. Iriad was the
Woman.
she was the Moakton, she was one of the Rangers?
Yes.
Okay. All right.
She was the
He was
one that had a
wanted
thing
to
for the
bang
butcher.
that cap away.
Yeah.
So you guys, you're not here to attack the pig people and eat them. Like,
And they affirm that they are in fact not here to do that.
okay. They're not
Birdie,
here.
have you translated any of this for us?
But I'm basically stopping, asking a bunch of questions, and then turning around and explaining like every 2 or 3 questions.
Just find out if they're working, if the ultimate boss is Yuan's father or not. That's all I care about.
I mean, Birdie turns and says, "So, do you guys work for the dragon in the mountain to the west?"
So let me stop you right there. So, this dragon lives deep in these mountains, somewhere up by Wendy's monastery. Not necessarily near to the monastery, because they, of course, his lair would be way down deep inside a cave somewhere. How much, if any, contact would Wendy have had with the dragon tribes there? Like, how much of this red dragon in the area does Wendy want to know about for purposes of this game in the next couple scenes?
I feel like, considering that it's a dragon, we probably would have had to fight them off a couple times. But that, considering that the monastery never had any interest in expanding, that once they got the message of, well, these guys aren't really worth taking over and don't want our stuff, that we mostly left each other alone.
There would have been no like military contact with this dragon. There have been no designs of him attacking the Aarakocra or anything of that nature. It's possible that some of these red kobolds might have gotten into trouble, like poaching fish out of your lake without permission or something of that nature. For Wendy to have had contact, like she would have actually had to gone in expeditions into this cave.
Oh, then probably not.
Then probably not. Okay. So Birdie asks if they work for Huyan's father.
Yes.
And again, they answer affirmatively. They tell you they have the pleasure of working for the Grand Sire Kyangyan.
Birdie relays that and says,
And then very quickly, when he sees you're turning to tell your friends something, translating into one of their languages, very quickly one of them says, "We know that Huyan has told you many lies about the Grand Sire."
so I quickly add, so not friends of Huyan. Like to my explanation,
Okay.
to my party, not to the Kobold. I don't even know if they speak common.
We should at least get both sides of the disagreement before we make any choices.
I mean, it seems like they're at least working with the people in Asarafall, so
That's better than Huyan.
potentially.
So what does Birdie tell them?
The Kobolds or the party?
The kobolds.
The
Do you tell them
Are we
you're
gonna
coming
Hearing
with
that
them or not?
they've been having conversations, Wendy's now in favor of just going.
okay. Well, then, if there are no objections, then Birdie motions them to lead the way.
That wasn't a die roll. I was just playing with dice and dropped some by accident.
Uh-huh.
It's alright, I've been playing with dice too.
Although Birdie stops and says, "Should we go to the village first and let the Moakton that are following us?"
And Wendy shrugs and says, "It sounds like some of the Moakton are at the camp."
I mean, how far is the camp?
From here, just another hour or so.
Okay, let's go to the camp, I say.
And frankly, the Moakton's interest can be better argued for when they have a group of their own here who can fight.
The big kobold in this group introduces himself as Trek. And at this point, when Birdie's kind of telling, "Hey, I will follow you," he comes forward. You see him hand his spear off to one of his little henchmen and hand his bow off to another one. So he comes down, approaching your party unarmed.
once again, Birdie just motions for him to lead the way.
Trek goes around and gets introductions from all of you. Neither Josiah nor Ubrid speak Kobold or Draconic. So the question is, what do you guys tell them is happening now?
I mean, the truth, I guess.
Yeah, it'll translate into Sylvan that one of the rangers from Sarafall has been in contact with this group. They're bringing us to her camp.
Josiah says very well. They defer to your judgment for the time being. And you guys march for another hour or so. And as you're circling up into the foothills, looking down over the river, where you can't actually see the village because the glamour in place prevents that from this distance. But you can see a great swath of grassland beyond the village that looks like it's been blackened and burned, as though a battle had been fought there recently.
Well, it's a good thing we brought some fighting milk then.
And now I have to go to my favorite website, Immigrant.
The fight in Moakton.
I just want you guys to know that I tried really, really hard to make this map look like snowy and wintry, but my Photoshop skills were just
Didn't
not
it
up
get
to the
lost?
task. No.
Oh wait, you didn't get to use it last week, so now you're re-bringing it out?
No, this is a totally different map.
Oh.
No, I tried but failed, so I just reverted it back. So just pretend like it's a wintry-looking map.
Those are evergreens, right?
Yeah, sure, that's fine. You're taken to kind of like a secluded place in between two of the larger hills, which is a very heavily forested region of the foothills. From here, if you were to take this road out of the camp, you could go up onto an overlook that can look down over the river valley. In fact, you can stand here and trace the river and see the path that you guys took when you went off to White Mother's Spring. The camp itself is teeming with kobolds primarily. Dozens and dozens of the little buggers. There are some larger tents set up around the perimeter. It looks like most of these kobolds, though, just sleep out on the ground in the open. In the center, you see where they have these two large communal tables set up. Just a lot of eating and bickering going on in the commons area. It looks as though the whole camp is populated with primarily kobolds, probably 1 in 10 of them an Erd. You also see several Dragonborn of red or orangish coloration. And on pikes, just outside the camp's peripheries, so like along this area here, on both sides coming into the camp, you see pikes staked into the soil with orc heads tarred and stuck on top. They are the most beautiful orc heads you've ever seen in your life.
Birdie points at them and then